Hi, welcome back, and we're going to be looking at Ethereum in just a second here. I've got new intros. Let me know what you think of them in the comments below, and if you think they should be right at the very start or not at all, let me know. And we'll check out Ethereum in just a second. Now, what do we have to look at on here? Well, in terms of this 24-hour chart, we'll be checking and saying, well, could this be a flag that has a measured move off of it that goes, down or up? And we'll also be looking towards things like the DMI for the trend on the lower time frames and whatnot, and see how things shape up. Okay, so thanks very much for tuning in, and let's get on with the show. So here we are back inside the charts. I was just flicking down them a second ago, down, and we're looking towards this 1 hour chart just so I can show that if I wanted to see something turn around, potentially I'd look for this blue line to be crossing above the red line here and going above the DMI when it's above 20. So we would need to see this all happening here. It happened first, I suppose you could say, and then follow that on up through the time frames. Of course, you can see in the 12 hours when you reach there that it's quite a different story already. And if you go over to something like the 2-day then, or well, just the 1 day, you can see that it looks currently like this trend is strengthening to the upside. If you go up as high again and it's a weekly or whatever, then you get a sort of different type of pictures on the go here. But of course, the trend is to the downside. We're not 100% sure on that. The strength of the trend is not actually really there on the weekly quite yet, and you can see why if you zoom right out, is because like on the weekly, if you go back the longest time, this just adds up to looking like consolidation. So that kind of makes sense like that. But we don't need to look at that in too much detail, because right now really we have a couple of easier targets in mind. We have this Magnolia line here, which I believe is the 236. Yes, indeed. Of if this were to be the bottom over here, then where would you need to see the prices go to be able to sort of think maybe you're being bullish or whatever? And it would be in around that 236 there, of course, at $135. So until such times as the prices open and close there for a decent time period, then it's just a fake out one way or the other, and it could still be a fake out even at that. The measured move off the back of this, if you were to just take it from there, and I feel like it's quite generous, but whatever, could take you as far as the this Magnolia line here, which is the 236 of the bigger overall macro Fibonacci retracement, which would be fantastic for the prices, but in order to maybe look towards upside in the longer term. But we'll not get carried away with that sort of measured move chat. Of course, equally to the downside, that takes you all the way down to $45 or so. So we'll not try and sort of get too carried away positively or negatively at all, because we don't do that on this channel. Instead, we'll look towards that area and towards the upside and say, like, we need to see the prices up above 133. We're still consolidating at the moment. We have to be wary that the prices could go down to 85. That would be where the current bottom is. If they do go down there, then I would expect them as well to go on down to 80 and 75, and as well, despite the fact that that's on lower than where our all-time lows here are on the BitMEX futures perpetual contract. Now, if we want to see something a bit longer, we can go to something like what's got longer things. Binance had it longer, maybe. No, is that when it started? Whatever, that would be all-time lows anyway that you're looking at across multiple exchanges at 85. So obviously that's the first sort of port of call if the prices were to drop down there. We've seen the prices go down there, and that's where we found support, because a lot of people had money in it around the all-time lows, as you'd expect. Now, would they continue to do that? Well, you wouldn't want to suck any more of that oil out of the ground there, really. So if that doesn't get a double bottom or some sort of bottom information around about here, then you could look down towards 40 and things like that. Who knows how it could go, but we'll not get too carried away, like I was saying. Instead, you have to look towards this and whether or not we can break out or up or down to out of a triangle, or if some of our other formation starts to appear like an inverse head and shoulders. And for that to happen up here in the 24-hour chart is asking a bit much, but if you go down to the 12-hour chart, then you can see we've got what could be a head compared to a shoulder here, potentially, but I really think that's very, very, very generous, getting a bit carried away, look into these imaginary patterns, when really you'd need need to see the prices do simple things, get above the 21 EMA on the 4 hours there, and use some of this divergence we can see on the 4-hour charts to actually turn things around, get the trend here to turn around on the DMI and all of that. Then we can start to think a bit more positively. There's a lot of work to be done in the meantime, and a lot of percentage price changes in order to do it in. And in fact, if you just look at today's range, 10% there, currently where prices are currently, but we know that the prices have been have ranged so much over the last few days that there's anything could really happen. So we'll just have to wait and see how things pan out over the next wee while. I hope it'll be kind of useful in terms of seeing how things are shaping up. Of course, the 24 hours doesn't look good. Looks like things are continuing to strengthen to the downside until such times as either the prices do move to the downside, so we can say we've got some bullish divergence potentially in here, and that's asking a lot. It's asking for them to go close lower than they are now and then move back up from where they are then, or else you're looking towards downside. So the overall, like the case has to be made that the downside is looking more likely. But I like to remain positive on these things, and know that in around $100 is a good psychological level, and maybe potentially with these external factors like the coronavirus, it's hard to know what could really be going on, and judging things purely on technicals at that point is stretching things. So this divergence could potentially play out really well. Who knows? But it's up to you to manage your own risk. I'm not a financial advisor and all that sort of stuff. I don't do financial advice, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you so much for tuning in.